So I'm sitting at Ferncrest Campground right now in front of one of our dome tents. These are our best performing tents by far. We've tried out bell tents, we've tried out safari tents, which we call crest tents, but the dome tents are the clear winner. They're temperature controlled, so they actually have insulation in them, so they can have air conditioning and heat. They also have electricity, so they have mini fridges, microwaves. They really are like a hotel room experience. At Ferncrest specifically, we don't even put bathrooms in them though, so they still have a campground vibe. You gotta walk to the bathroom. At the end of the day, they really give people the modern comforts of home in the outdoors. So we position all of our dome tents so that the windows look into the woods. People just love them. Today, I want to go over the financials of a dome tent. So that includes how much it costs to build them. And then I want to give you insight into how much money we actually make off of these as well, because the business of glamping can be really lucrative if done right, but you got to really know what you're getting yourself into in order to do so. Let's first look at the actual numbers of what it costs to put one of these up. The tent itself behind me is 16 foot in diameter. That is a smaller dome tent. It's big enough for either a king bed, which that one has a king bed and a couple chairs in it. We also do some of these 16-foot tents with 2 full-size beds. So you can sleep 4 people in those. You can sleep like 2 people in this one. The other sizes that we have produced before and that we do sell is 23 foot and 30 foot. So a 23 foot is better for like a family. You can have a king bed, 2 bunk beds in there. And then the 30 foot is like full on cabin. You can have a kitchen, you can have bathrooms, you can have everything in there. The pricing that I'm gonna give you right now and the breakdown of the dome tent financials is gonna be based upon this 16-foot dome tent directly behind me. The tent itself, the structure, the PVC cover, the door is $5,720. That's the cost of the actual structure. That doesn't include the platform, which is the second largest expense that you're gonna have with a dome tent. Our platforms here are 20 foot by 20 foot square, and that costs about $3,500 to build. So the material being probably about $2,500 of that, and then labor being the balance. There's a lot of different ways to make platforms either more expensive or cheaper. One of the ways to make platforms more expensive, not that you would want to, is if you have full-on foundation. So you don't necessarily need to do that. So we have them built on concrete block, which doesn't require digging. Depending on the code and regulation of a township, you may or may not have to put them in the ground. But for us, we didn't have to, so that's how they're built here. Then the actual wood. The wood that you want to use and that we used is pressure treated lumber. There's obviously other ways to do reclaimed wood, or some people might mill their own wood at home, but that's really the biggest expense because wood is quite expensive. Another expense for a dome tent that you can or don't have to take on is a wood burning stove. In some of our tents we have them, in this one we don't, but if you were to put a wood burning stove in, that's around $1,500, give or take. The reason why this one doesn't have wood burning stove is because as a hospitality business, we've learned that there is a variable to that makes it a little bit more complicated to operate and is prone to some user error and customer service issues. So I think moving forward, as we evolve sort of how we approach glampgrounds, we're probably gonna lean away from doing wood burning stoves. However, they do have their charm and they are really beautiful if they're done right. The other thing that is in all of these tents is furniture. So furniture does seem like a major expense, can be done pretty economically, because at the end of the day, we like to think that the dome tent allows nature to be the star, and really we want people to enjoy the outdoors. So we're not putting super expensive furniture in our dome tents. In fact, our beds, our mattresses, and our linens are all under $1,000 cumulatively. Then if you wanted to put in chairs and things like that, we spend about a few $100s on a couple nice chairs. We spend about $300 to $400 on an air conditioning unit. So that's a really important part of the dome tent experience because people are looking for something that's temperature controlled. And then another $100 for a heating unit for the shoulder season. So we stay open in the early spring and then the late fall where it does get chilly at night. So we like to have a little heat source. A few other things that are in there: carpet under $100. We have things like plants and decor under $100. The hot water kettle is $55. The coffee setup we have in there is $85. We also offer up some enamel mugs, which are $38. And the fridge and microwave is $290. So a lot of these items, they do all add up and they do make for a overarching investment of anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 to do a dome tent just like this. However, the actual return on investment can be really substantial. But before I get into how much you can make with a dome tent, it also costs money to run the dome tent on an ongoing basis. So to clean a dome like this, it's about $30 in labor. Then you have an additional cost of the actual linen. So the linen service that we use charges by weight. We do use a good amount of linens per room, and that's anywhere from $10 to $20 in cost associated with linen. So all in, to turn over one of these dome tents, it's gonna be about $50 a stay. All right, so here's the thing that you guys might really want to hear about, which is how much do we make with these dome tents? We're going to start with the statistic that is the foundation for that number, which is the average daily rate, the ADR. That's an important metric in the hospitality industry because you want to know basically how much, if I rent this, would it rent for on average? So for a dome tent like this without a hot tub, that's $224 a night. When it does have a hot tub, which is our outdoor wood-fired hot tubs, that increases it by another $30, making it get over $250 a night on average. All right, so if you have an average daily rate, the other number that you really got to know is the occupancy rate. And the occupancy rate is how many nights of a time period is it filled. And for us, the occupancy rate of a dome tent is on average 60%. When we're open for the season, we're filled about 60% of the time. Now, during the peak summer, that's higher, right? That could be 70 or 80%. But during the shoulder season, that's lower because school is back in session and the weekday occupancy is going to be a lot lower. But on average, we get about 60% occupancy rate for a dome tent. And that means that on average, we make about $4,000 to $5,000 per dome tent per month when it's open. So it doesn't mean that we make $4,000. There's obviously other expenses of running a business like this that are not just cleaning expenses. We have the costs of utilities, we have real estate tax, we have just overarching marketing expenses and other labor associated with actually running this business, customer service. But it does serve for a foundation for a very profitable glamping business, much more so than other tent types that we've experienced. So the dome tent is our superstar. We're definitely doubling down on this. We're probably adding more dome tents to Ferncrest here in Promised Land eventually. And it is what we are building our franchise model as well off of. We really want our Ferncrest model to be dome tent centric. It doesn't mean that that's the only structure we'll ever do, but it is the one that we see the most success with. So if you have any other questions about the dome tents, drop them below in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like and follow, subscribe, do all those good things.